Let's talk about why we impulse spend. What's behind it?
I think the biggest reason that we impulse spend is that we want instant gratification. So whether that's from coping with an emotion, a negative emotion, celebrating a positive emotion, a solution to boredom, what have you, we want the instant gratification or solution to problems now, and that's more important than things that could gratify us in the future. And impulse spending is in itself not bad. Sure. You can't and you shouldn't plan for every single expense. I know that when you talk about budgeting, you want to be able to plan for every single expense. Some people make it sound like you should, but there's no way to plan for every single expense. You can plan for a lot of them. There are going to be some impulse purchases, some unplanned purchases, which is essentially what an impulse purchase is. Yeah. But it's when those impulse purchases become habit, where we see them over and over and over, that's when they become a problem. And so it's identifying those impulse purchases that are happening more frequently than they should, and getting to the root of what's the instant gratification that we are looking for, and how can we find it elsewhere.
And that's just it. Sometimes it's easier to think, what do I need, want, desire right now, versus thinking about our future selves.
Always.
Like, who cares?
Right.
Let tomorrow worry about itself.
Right. We're very YOLO. And to an extent, yeah, you have to be intentional about living a great life now. But we also have to be just as intentional of protecting our future. Yeah. And so it's how do we balance those two things and keep our spending habits in line with that.
Recognizing that if we do have patterns of constant impulse spending, it is going to affect the long term and our future.
Yeah, not just financially, but in the amount of stuff you have in your home, the number of things you commit your time to. So it is a snowball that doesn't just affect your finances. So what are the 3 steps to improving one of those impulse or mindless spending habits?
Well, once we've been able to identify what the habits are that are not in alignment with our values, that are not helping us towards our financial goals, we want to replace the limiting habits. It's not just enough to get rid of it, because that's not going to be long lasting. And it's there for a reason. There's some coping mechanism or some benefit, even if minor, that habit brought to us. So we need to identify a way to replace that habit with something that is more in alignment with our values, that does get us closer to those goals that we've identified with something. So we don't just want to take away, we want to look at how do we also engage in something that might be more purposeful for us.
Yeah. I kind of think of like if you dig a hole in dirt, and if you don't put anything in there, when the rain comes, it fills back up with dirt. It just naturally fills back up. But if you were to put like a ball or a bowl in the hole, then when the rains come, that stays hollowed. Yeah. So it is much harder to just take something away and not replace it with anything, because when things happen, you're going to revert right back to what that habit was. But if you replace it with something healthier, then it becomes much easier to maintain.
Exactly. Eric and I used to love going to yard sales on Saturday mornings. And then when we lived in our tiny home, it's like, well, what's the point? What are we even going to buy? We don't have space for anything. That was one of the ways of really changing our lifestyle to align with our values, which then in turn changed some of these habits. And so instead, we would take a walk in a park. Really what it was about was getting out, walking around, seeing people. And so we were able to do that without spending money and collecting things.
Yes.
So then second is identifying the triggers to some of those habits. Like, what is it just before that moment of kind of getting into that pattern or that habit that happens just before? What are some of those triggers? And finding ways to eliminate those triggers or avoid those triggers. And this is an interesting concept because a lot of times triggers aren't just something to be avoided. There's something that we want to learn how to engage with. So, but finding ways that, okay, if I am really tempted at this certain store and I find myself constantly impulse spending, well, maybe it's easy enough to just not go there. What if I just didn't go there only when it was planned and intentional and I actually had a list of things that I'm going to get? So identify what is it that might prompt you to want to do that habit, whatever it is, and how can you interrupt that pattern?
Yeah, we think that we can just go on living the same lives that we always did, even after, like, we decide we want to make a change, and then we try and live our lives the same way, thinking, oh, I can just, like, use my willpower and change my life, but keep 99% of it the same.
Yeah.
And it's so misguided because willpower depletes on a daily basis. And so being intentional about changing up your routines to avoid the triggers is so much easier than trying to rely on your willpower.
Exactly. Yeah, because by 3:00, forget about it.
No.
I'm going to have a really hard time making decisions.
Yeah.
Hanger sets in and it's all
Some
done.
people can go till 5, but we're 3 p.m. people.
Yes. It's not because I get up at 5 a.m.
No.
I'll tell you that much.
Unfortunately, no.
All right. And so third is to surround yourself with community and people who are going to support you, which is why I moved to Florida, to be closer to you. I surround myself with you.
I'll take that. I am your community.
Exactly. No, but for real. And I know that not every single person is going to fully understand us or fully support everything that we do. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But absolutely finding the people who do. Are there a couple of trustworthy, trusted individuals who have similar values to your own, who value what you are setting your sights on? And can you spend time with those people for encouragement, for motivation, for friendship, for community, to be able to engage in fun activities that don't have to cost a lot of money or help you towards spending or saving on things that are valuable to you? So I think people are a vital component to this lifelong journey, right? Because we're not just talking about something that's a means to an end. This is a lifelong journey. Sometimes we don't find that in our very immediate bubble. Sometimes we have to look outside of maybe our homes, certainly what's in our community. And sometimes we have to go digitally with it. Sometimes we got to listen to the podcast. We got to engage with people online. We've got to find what we need. Again, whether it's in person or online, I think we can get the support that we're looking for.
Yeah, definitely. It's if you can't find it locally, you can get it digitally. And finding that small group that you can be in community with consistently can make it much easier to stick with meeting your financial goals.
How can we identify spending habits that we should probably improve?
Yeah, so like you said with the triggers, we have to, in this case, try to avoid them, or at least change up the routine that introduces them. And so that's probably the most important part. I find that a no spend challenge helps you do that really quickly because by eliminating 100% of your discretionary expenses, obviously not your bills, nobody is impulse buying gas for their car. So like you're still...
I didn't know it was coming.
Yeah, you're still buying like the important things, but like all the discretionary things that you don't need, you can really get a grasp on what am I spending mindlessly on? What am I spending on every day or every other day? And what am I spending on out of emotions, whether those emotions are positive or negative? And so it can help you change up your routine to figure out, okay, what are my triggers? What are my spending habits? And then from there, you can figure out how can I change them? What's most important to me now? How can I go and change that? And so we actually have a free 7-day no spend challenge, a little mini workbook that actually guides people through planning for a 7-day no spend challenge, reflecting on every single day, and then wrapping it up and figuring, okay, what did I learn and where do I go from here? And so that's available at frugalfriendspodcast.com/free. But it's a great way to start figuring out what habits you have and prioritizing which ones to work on.
I love the word free. And fun, and having a challenge like that is really fun, but also with intentionality to be able to look at, like you said, sometimes we're not even aware. We think we've got it reined in and, how do I find more money? Only to realize when we actually take a closer look, there are actually some areas that could be reined in that I'm spending mindlessly and without intention. And I think the word you use, just the discretionary component, is key.
Yeah.
And I do think sometimes it takes a no spend challenge for us to realize I am spending in excess here.
Mm-hmm. And you get the opportunity to pause and think creatively about how to solve the problem without money. We had one girl in our membership community. She found that she was spending on takeout coffee way more than she wanted to. She ended up taking her espresso machine to work. People looked at her weird, but she did not buy any takeout coffee after that. and that's something she wouldn't have realized or figured out how to solve if she hadn't stopped for a week to figure out what she was actually doing.
Right. Yep. We think we need to buy these things, but when we're forced to think creatively, we realize, there is actually a workaround here. Even long-term solutions.
Yeah. So once somebody identifies a habit or two that they want to work on, or even if they haven't yet, like where does somebody get started with implementing this?
Yeah, I think it's really important that we start in a digestible manner. I think sometimes we can get really gung-ho about personal growth and learning, and we see all of these things we need to fix and we want to do it all at once. And it's just so unrealistic, and it's not going to stick. It's not going to have any long-term benefits. We really need to break it down into bite-sized, attainable pieces. So I would say we need to look at one habit, and it could be the habit that's costing the most or is the most pervasive, is the most acute, causing the most distress to you. But pick one and really focus in on what are some of the interruptions to that habit pattern that need to be made? What can it be replaced with? Really focus in on that, I would say, for a good couple of weeks before we look to, okay, what else can I incorporate? Because not only will it make it manageable, but it can build upon itself for you to see, and I did that, and here's how I did that, and almost provide a guidebook for the next areas that you want to be shifting and changing. And of course, it's helpful for us to have tools and resources as we talk about this thing. And we have a 45-day habit challenge to help identify what are these habits, how can we shift some of them that we're doing in our membership group. And so where we do need some of that accountability, where we need some of that guidance, where we need some of the step-by-step, like, help me, how do I do this? I can understand it in theory. So really excited about that 45-day challenge.
Yeah, I love that it's going to force people. It's a challenge in opting out. You know, like so many challenges feel like the challenge of like just you're adding something else to your schedule. And this one is truly a challenge in opting out of something and replacing it with something else. So it should feel like a seamless thing. And like 45 days, it doesn't seem long, but when you're in it, it seems really long.
It's more than a month.
Right. And so traditionally we've thought 21 days to build a habit, which science has proven is wrong. It takes at least 21 days just to... The original study was actually for people with like facial surgeries to get used to their new faces. That's how long it
That's
took.
amazing.
That's where that came from.
Okay.
And so
Not the same.
studies have shown now that it takes an average of 66 days to build a habit.
Oh.
But those first 6 weeks, those first 45 days are the hardest for any challenge. And so we kind of like walk you through, and it's great with the membership community. You can get like a small group, and you have a larger group, like a mega group chat essentially. And then a small group that you can like really be intentional with, walking through those 45 days. So it's great. And then if you miss it with Club BFF, we do have the workbook to do on your own. But it's a really great opportunity to opt out and focus on one thing at a time.
I love that. I love hearing you say that. Like, I want you to keep saying like opt out, opt out. It just sounds so freeing.
Yes.
It is a challenge. You are able to do it with groups and pairs if you're doing it through Club BFF or on your own, and not adding more in, but seeing what we can take away and replace, certainly.
Yeah.
So excited.